Yeah, I'm not wearing a watch.
Okay, I'll get a watch.
It took ages. It doesn't need to be said. No one's going to see.
Yeah, true. Hello and welcome everybody to the Fine Watches podcast. This is season 2, episode...
Something.
10, 9, 10?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Doesn't matter.
New format. Anyway, So we're here together in the same town.
How amazing.
Which is nice. Indeed.
It's so good. So, yeah, as you guys will see, I've flown in from the Gold Coast to Melbourne and we're doing a live in-person studio recording.
Start with the traditional wrist check.
After you, sir.
So I have a Tudor Snowflake on, which I quite like. We will be talking about dive watches in an upcoming episode, so we might cover that off in depth then.
And the secret squirrel business behind that one was 3 seconds before recording, Ben didn't have a watch on.
I didn't have a watch on, so I found
So he quickly grabbed...
what was close. So there we go.
So I'm wearing a new watch that I teased. I've been teasing for a little while that FedEx finally delivered. It's my AP Royal Oak. Oh, it's AP Royal Oak. We're talking AP Royal Oaks, and that's why I'm wearing it. It's the AP Millenary. This is my brand new watch to me. This is the 2012, discontinued now, the ovular shape. It's that sort of very deceivingly large, but wears really well case shape. It got delivered to me about 2 weeks ago, a week ago, I think.
Finally, yeah.
Finally. Yeah. Oh, mate, it took so long. But yeah, AP Millenary, in keeping with today's episode where we're talking all about the AP Royal Oak. So, Ben, AP Royal Oaks, fan, not fan?
For me, it's not my personal style. I prefer kind of the round shapes and all that, and so that multifaceted bezel is just not me. But it's undeniable that it is, an absolute classic of watch design. Obviously, the great Gerald Genta, and I guess as we've talked on the pod before, I'm cynical of the hype watches, and there's no arguing that the Royal Oak family is definitely a hype watch. It's worth noting just on the Gerald Genta thing that of the sort of the big three at the moment, which is obviously the Nautilus, the Royal Oak, and sort of Rolex Dive Sports.
Rolex
is the fact that Genta took care of two of those is pretty remarkable. But yeah, look, I like them. I think they're really nice. I think this particular variant, the thin case, that it's not as is really cool.
Yeah.
Not my style, but definitely a 10 out of 10 for iconic watch design for sure.
I would say, I think you're right in the fact that of the big three pieces right now, the Genta integrated sports bracelet is really sort of taking the cake at this point. Look, here on the table we've got the 15202, which is next to the 16202 that replaced it. This is realistically the one, right? This is the one everyone wanted. This is the jumbo 39mm ultra thin, like, it is a stunningly finished watch. The bracelet on these is stunning, and there's so many people copying or trying to do what the Royal Oak does, and I guess ultimately that's why it's so popular, is that imitation's the highest form of flattery, right? Everyone's imitating this watch, or to an extent trying to imitate this watch. With the 15202, you're getting more than what your standard Royal Oaks would be offering. Like, this is a very, very thin piece. I think it's like 10, 11mm thick, maybe even less. I can't remember off the top of my head, so guys, if you know, put it in the comments below. It feels, personally, this piece feels a little bit delicate to me. I think in the 39mm case, the 15300s were a little bit thicker. It feels a bit more substantial. Then you get the 500s, 400s, and all the rest of it.
See, for me, that's the beauty of this one.
Yeah.
And for this line, and remembering that it came out in 72, and okay, there were some ridiculous chunky watches in 72, but typically of that time, things were much smaller. 36s, 34s, 38s were a much more common size of watch. So this was still a big watch at that point.
Absolutely.
And I find that the chronos and everything on these really, and I've got a big wrist, I find that they really start to become just trucks on the wrist.
They can do, they really can do. The
Whereas
41
with
mil
this,
chrono,
it's
especially.
it still stays elegant. It's still a suit watch.
Yeah.
Despite I guess they're classified as a sports watch, right?
Yeah.
The thing I love about these is the hands. Is that sort of, I guess there's a proper term for it, but that sausage.
It's like a baton.
Rounded,
right?
the baton hand is just fantastic. And there's a lot of people who've copied, if they haven't copied the whole design, they've copied those hands, which again is a real tribute to the design.
And then the other thing on the dial, the tapisserie dial, or the Grand Tapisserie dial, everyone's got some form of that. And we're going to talk today about some alternatives and some other options that you could have at different price points for the Royal Oak. And I think something that we see a lot, and that a lot of these have in common, is the dial and the hands. If they, like you say, if they haven't done the dial, they do the hands. If they haven't done the case, they do. But the dial on the Royal Oak is so delicate and so well crafted. I think that's part of not just the integrated case and the octagonal and all the rest of it and the beautifully finished bracelet. I think that dial really evokes a bit of passion and it says this is different.
Yeah, and I think it softens it off as well. It
does.
Because it's such a
industrial
design. I think it really lends a bit of sort of elegance or whatever to it as well. So it's beautiful. There's no denying. Despite saying it's not my style, it's a beautiful watch.
Gorgeous
it's
watch.
absolutely
Well
beautiful.
done, right?
I don't like suits, but there are some beautiful suits.
Fair enough.
So it's no, they're just gorgeous, and the build quality and the finishing on the back and the counterweight and everything is just absolutely fantastic. They're a beautiful piece.
I've been wearing this one for a couple of days, especially on the trip down here. We're very fortunate that we've had this piece in, and it does wear really well. The 39, I'm a small guy, as you can see. I'm not a huge guy. I'm 75 kilos. I'm 5'9". I'm a small guy. And that 39 mil fits me perfectly. The 41 I find a little too large. That's your size.
Yeah.
The 37 that no one seems to love, I actually really like. There's something about it, especially when you get the slightly thicker ones.
Yeah.
There's just something about that, really refined polishing with quite a chunky case. I quite like that. Yeah. But the 39 is definitely where it's at. And I think the market is showing that, where this is essentially a $30,000 watch retail, $35,000 watch retail. They're $100,000 pre-owned, $100,000, a 70 grand premium on a stainless steel watch is crazy. But look, where else are you going to get it? At the end of the day, you want a Royal Oak in this kind of configuration. It's this watch or nothing.
I think it's interesting. Right? I think that in itself is really interesting because it's, we've said in Australia time and time again, when does property go down? This is ridiculous.
When does the Royal Oak go down?
When does the Royal Oak go down?
It doesn't.
And is it, I'm always the voice of cynicism on this pod, and to me, it's just not $100,000 worth of watch. I mean, I think that, handmade stuff, Pascal Coyon, Chaikin, all those sorts of things, $100,000. Okay, you're getting or gold and diamonds and everything where the material is the cost.
That's the chat we had at dinner last night. Was just that, right? Is this $100,000? To me, the market says it is. Everyone's paying $100,000. It used to be $250,000. It used to be $250,000. That's ridiculous. And the market said that was ridiculous, and it came down.
Yeah,
we're actually seeing these start to creep back up in price now.
Yeah.
So yes, material-wise, a sub is not a $20,000 watch, but at some point, it just is because everyone says it is.
Well,
right?
The market says it is, so it is.
Yeah,
for sure. But it's in terms of relative value, and that starts the whole debate that we've had.
Yeah.
A lot of times about value and in integral value, intrinsic value within each manufacturer and the watches that they make. So it's, and is the difference there, and long term will it sustain? So it'll be interesting to see. It's certainly a very, very iconic design and deserving of the recognition of that through its desirability and I guess, the price, even $30,000 for a time and date watch is a lot of money.
Without a hacking movement or a quick set date on that. Actually, when I put this on, and it was I think the 17th or 16th in the month, and I put it on, and it was on the 8th. Oh my God. That was so annoying.
Around and around
so
and around
annoying.
we go, yeah.
But either way.
And no seconds.
No seconds.
So...
But that leads us to what we have on the table. So today we've got for you guys a number of alternatives, and we're sort of capping the alternatives that we've got on the table into that sort of under $20,000, like under the retail price of the Royal Oak. And there are some really cool pieces here. But where do you want to start today with the alternatives? Do you want to go price?
Yeah, I think we go lowest to highest. And
right.
I guess the selection criteria was really around obviously keeping that price down so that people can access something that's in the same sort of design class. But then it was really around the fact that it's an integrated sports watch. I would argue also that all of these really pass as dress watches really as well.
In some way, right?
You could wear any of these with a suit to a formal occasion, nice pair of shorts and a button down on the weekend or whatever, and it's
Hang on. We're going price and you're saying dress watches. Can we get the first one out?
Yeah, let's get the first one out.
The first one. The dress watch that is the CasiOak. Look, we giggle about the CasiOak because it's the CasiOak, right? It's the very, very affordable couple $100 Royal Oak. But they're amazing. I mean, how many of these have you owned? Because I've owned like 5, I think, at some point.
I currently own at least 5. And I actually think some of the little metal cases and things that have been made for it are cool. I reckon some of them look really cool.
I've done that. I think I've done 3.
Yeah.
I did the Gen 1, and then they changed the Alibaba kits that you see. They changed the way it worked, and I got Gen 2s and 3s. I've done a few of them. I think they're awesome. I think that for what you're getting for a couple $100 here is a really fun, reliable, and actually super wearable G-Shock. Because G-Shocks are notoriously quite large pieces, right? So guys, my size, if you want to actually wear one that's not wearing you, the CasiOak, I think at the time, was the thinnest G-Shock they'd ever produced.
Yep.
And it is really quite thin. I mean, we can show you sort of, compared to the ultra thin Royal Oak, it ain't bad.
It's not too bad.
It's not bad.
It's only 2 mil or 3 mil bigger.
Which is insane for what you're getting.
And the other thing I love about these is several things. First of all, accuracy and everything, because it's quartz, is amazing.
Yeah.
Design is awesome. Like all of the elements of the design of it are really nice. The markers, everything. And just the range of colours available is insane. Not just plain reds and yellows and all that, but there are all sorts of combinations of colours and sub-dials and markers and all that. Not to mention the custom painted dials.
IFL watches do that,
which are super, super cool. I think they're cool. I will say setting them is an absolute bitch.
Oh my God,
it's a bitch. Sorry, Casio, but it's a bitch. And especially because there's world time, so you don't know whether you're setting, and is it summertime or is it whatever. But
don't travel with your Casio.
Yeah, don't travel with the Casio for sure.
It's the worst.
There are some very good travel watches before using this one. The other thing is that I have a number of friends who are in the military, and there are so many watches that are military watches that people who are actually field operational members of the military just wouldn't even think about wearing, because the things that you're subjecting your body and the watch to are ridiculous. And again, if you're in the services and I'm wrong on this, please comment below. But every single person that I know wears G-Shock.
Yeah.
So whether it's a CasiOak or something else,
Frogman usually, right?
Everybody wears a G-Shock just because you can put these through literally battle explosions, whatever, and they just keep going.
No, it's an awesome piece. Well, that brings us then. So we, jokes aside, it's a bit of a joke of a Royal Oak alternative, but it is genuinely, it's quite fun, and we love them here. And there's no slander on the CasiOak. We've got 2 other pieces here that I want to sort of talk about together because it's of the time and. We're very fortunate to have them here. One of them being the Tissot PRX, especially with the Powermatic 80, because of the dial that you get. And the second one, we're very fortunate, a friend of mine has lent me this today, is the Christopher Ward 12. So these are, fairly recent watches. I think the Tissot is what, a couple of years old? Maybe 2 years old?
I think 2, yeah.
And then the Christopher Ward, the CW, the 12, is brand new. Came out a month ago or so. Really, really hard to get. But let's talk Tissot first. Here we have 40mm integrated stainless steel sports watch, standard thing. But we have the dial, the faux tapisserie dial. It's not really
beautifully textured dial.
Right? It's very much copying the Royal Oak on the dial, and I think it does a really good job of that. The square pattern, that cube pattern inside, obviously not to the great detail. With the Royal Oak, you have also the striations running through each one, and there's a lot more to it. But as a budget alternative for a couple of $100, stainless steel sports watch, you get, even on this model, on the Powermatic 80, you do get a display back, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's the Powermatic 80 movement. It's nothing special. It's not the most heavily polished and finished thing, but it's cool, right?
I think certainly the texturing, the actual physical texturing is not the same. What is nice about the Tissot versus the AP though is that sort of sunburst.
Yeah, I agree.
Sort of texture to it, which is nice. And the thing is, where that's also really nice is with the PRXs. In certain light, the blue one looks black.
Yeah. And
then when you get that shine, you get the blue. Where the Audemars is a distinctly navy, and
it's always blue.
It's kind of always blue. Not that that's a huge measure of comparison, but I kind of like that. I think it's nice. Certainly the texture on the Audemars is just beautiful. So
again, a little look behind the curtain. That Tissot PRX there is actually my personal piece. It's the second one I've had. I had the black, and I think I told this story. The guy came back in and we traded it out, and I got the blue off him, and he had the black back. Like the blue is really cool. I really, really like the blue. But any color you get on the PRX, you can't really go wrong. They're really cool, and they've just announced the 35mm in the Powermatic 80. So if you're even smaller, or maybe you're a lady that you got a smaller wrist, the 35mm is now available in the automatic, which is awesome.
To be fair, for the money, I reckon it's
up there.
This is really up there in the last few years of things that have come out.
Well,
I kind of count Tissot in there with sort of Longines or whatever. It's a venerable brand. It's been around for a very, very long time. They really know what they're doing, and with a little bit of marketing and changing or whatever, they might change tier or whatever, but they make really, really good product for the money. There's no doubt about that.
So now I have to eat crow. So a couple of weeks ago, a couple episodes ago, I went on a huge rant about Christopher Ward and the Bel Canto and the 12 and what are they doing, and I was so wrong, and Christopher Ward, Mike France, I'm so sorry. The Christopher Ward 12 is what the PRX wishes it could be. Every detail on this watch compared to the PRX is better. They've just done everything the PRX did and done it better. Now, admittedly, it's a lot more expensive. It's probably twice the price, yeah? But the dial patterning is more delicate, it's more intricate. The case is more refined, more delicate, more intricate. The hands are more refined, more delicate, everything they've done. The taper to the bracelet, the clasp, everything is just better. And it's twice the price, and right now it's very hard to get a hold of. I think the wait lists are like 6 months just for the stainless steel ones. I looked to try and get a titanium version because you can get this in titanium with a Fume dial. That's just impossible to get as well. I think they work out to be about $2,500 Australian. These are about $1,000. PRXs you can pick up pre-owned in mint condition for $500 all day, every day. This is a great watch.
For me,
it's a great watch.
For me, I think.
He's about to be wrong.
I just think it's a little overdone.
Oh wow.
So for example, there's faceting to the bezel doesn't really need to be there, could have been plain, and because it's not massively evident, it's kind of adds sparkle without having like a big structure to it.
But isn't that like you're in the sun and your watch is sparkling and shining and saying, "Look at me, I'm fucking amazing." Like that's That's what you want. That's why you wear a Royal Oak, because
maybe on the Gold Coast. Mate.
Yeah.
We were in Melbourne, recording this in Melbourne.
Every time you move this thing, it shines your eyes out. The Royal Oak, like that's the point of these things.
But the subtlety of that, and the subtlety of one versus the other, and I think I'll give it to the band on this. It's better. It's heavier. Yeah. It's quieter, for sure. And look, there's no argument with the finish on this, but I think that a lot of aspects to it. So, for example, the hour markers, bigger, maybe a bit too big. The hour markers on the PRX, small and classic and subtle.
But not faceted, not polished the same, so they don't stand out the same way.
No, exactly. But that's
payoffs,
I guess
right?
that's my point, is that I don't think, given that the watch overall is so nicely designed, they've just put a bit too much sparkle on, and for example, the face, like the texturing's lovely, but it's a bit too shiny kind of thing. Okay. So I think it's really nice. Don't get me wrong. I think for the money, it's really good. I think it's certainly an alternative for the Tissot if this is the style you like and you like a bit more bling over the plain.
Yeah.
That's just my personal preference is the
Look,
sort of
everyone's
the more
allowed to be wrong
the better.
every now and again. I just said I was wrong. I was wrong 3 or 4 weeks ago. Like, it's fine. It's happened in my life once or twice.
I thought I was wrong once, but I made a mistake. But yeah, look, don't get me wrong. I think it's a really nice watch. I think Christopher Ward is coming along in the brand, and their product is really coming along in the right direction. This is a really impressive watch from a watch a brand that started out where they did, not that long ago. Yeah. I like the quick release bracelet on here. But it's just, like I said, just a little bit more blingy than the other one, and I prefer the PRX's understatedness for that. But yeah, it's definitely a winner for sure.
Well, so if we talk about some more understated and a little bit more classic in the design and old school, I mean, this watch actually predates the Royal Oak by, I think, about a year, maybe 2. The next one on our list is the Girard-Perregaux Laureato. Now, this is an interesting one in the history of this market ridiculousness we've seen. This watch went absolutely insane. For 6 months, I'd say, it went like properly bonkers. It was above retail, maybe even close to 2 times retail at some point. It's Genta inspired, not Genta designed, but it does predate the Royal Oak, as I said. So Girard-Perregaux are a really, really impressive manufacturer. They do some really, really impressive watches, triple bridge tourbillons and all the rest of it. They're an incredible watchmaker. I think one thing that I heard said about them was the holy trinity of watchmaking. We've got Royal Oak, Vacheron, and AP. Sorry, AP. Either way, the holy trinity. These guys missed out because they were holding the camera the day the photo was taken. Right?
Yeah.
They are every bit Vacheron and AP and Patek. They're every bit that. But for whatever reason, they just don't have the market share. They did recently, and then this has tumbled in market value since. These are now being offloaded at sort of $10,000, $11,000. The retail's like $23,000. If you can pick up a GP Laureato, and I've had one in the past and I loved it, do it. Do it right now, because they are such a good watch.
They're gorgeous, and I think we discussed in 2 episodes ago how this is basically an Ingenieur as well, IWC Ingenieur. Yes. So, they're great value. The finish on them is absolutely fantastic. It's interesting you mentioned Vacheron, because I think Vacheron, we could have certainly have had a Vacheron on this table, but it just didn't fit the price criteria. And I think that this particular model is extremely comparable with that. It's the same difference. It's a similar difference between the Tissot and the Ward in terms of
it splits the difference.
Yeah, in terms of a little bit more emphasis, I guess, on some of the detailing in terms of the styling on the Vacheron. I would argue that the Vacheron movement is obviously there's a price difference there, is obviously, of higher quality or whatever.
Well, there was a
But
time
it's-
GP made movements for Vacheron and AP. They're a legit watchmaking
Indeed,
facility.
there's no doubt about that. But to me, Vacheron is one of the ones that it's always when people talk about, the big three and all that. It's Vacheron is just, it's on the bench and, chewing the tobacco or whatever the baseball guys do, ready to go. But yeah, no, these are gorgeous, and I think that GP is worth a look. And GP, there's a lot of really beautiful vintage Girard-Perregaux, including the sort of 60s aesthetic that I really like, some chronos and all that sort of stuff, which are really good. Speaking of vintage, we've thrown in a little vintage Dark Horse, which is a Seamaster Cosmic 2000 integrated bracelet, which is just cool. And you can find those for about $1,000.
That's crazy, right?
Find something like, or even cheaper on eBay if it's just a sort of an individual seller that's found one in Grandpa's drawer or whatever. But it's an Omega, and it's got a beautiful Omega movement from the 70s, and just a gorgeous watch. Really nicely designed, that kind of understated look, not too dressy. It's still got a bit of sort of heft to it, a bit of chunk.
Yeah.
So it's, can fit into that sort of sporty kind of feel as well.
This reminds me more of the PRX than any of the others. Like, it's
very
just,
PRX
it's a little bit
shape.
more, utilitarian and a bit, it's not as highly finished as the AP. It's not even in that category of like finish and faceting and all the rest of it. But in terms of a stainless steel integrated bracelet watch, I mean, what, for $1,000? That's a hard one to beat. I really
a
like
decent
these.
one too.
So yeah, guys, let us know what you think. Have we hit the points on the Royal Oak for you? Comment below. We want to hear the conversation. We want to get involved and see what you guys think. I mean, we're talking integrated steel sports watches.
And leave the price out, because obviously when you start to get to Royal Oak money, then the whole world opens. But integrated sort of dress/sports watches that are in spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
Indeed.
So yeah, from myself, Lewis, and from Ben, thank you for paying attention and viewing in with us today. If you want to follow along elsewhere, you can find myself at Instagram at GC Watch Guy, and you can find Ben at Fine Watches AU. Again, find the podcast on all your podcast platforms and YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Everywhere you get your content will be there, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one as well.
Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time from the Fine Watches podcast, enjoy.
Take care.